Everyone in here just wants to get better, and it's possible to get better, but there's basically, why do so many people get stuck in this range? Most people when they read, let me just kind of erase things here. Let's assume these are words on a page. Okay? These little dashes, we'll just pretend they're words on a page. Most people when they read, let's say this marker is your eye, most people read something like this. Okay, looks familiar, right? First of all, how many people read left to right? Raise your hands. Okay, some of you are looking at me like, is something wrong with that? Nothing's wrong with reading left to right. Okay, that's how we read in English. What about, how many people notice when you read, you kind of go on a word-by-word basis? Raise your hand. We read every single word? Yes? Okay. Basically, there's 3 habits. If you want to improve your reading speed, your comprehension, your recall ability, there's 3 habits that need to be changed. Okay? The first one is called fixation. Okay? You can write this down if you want. If not, just make sure you're paying attention. Fixation is something that your eyes do as you're reading the page. It's basically a stop and go motion of your eyes. Okay, so your eyes are fixating on each and every single word. In this material, there's 10 words per line, so your eyes are probably making 9 or 10 stop, go, stop, go, stop, go. Okay? So fixation is the first habit that needs to be changed. The problem with this is everyone in here has peripheral vision, right? You can see more than one word at a time. We just never were really taught how to read groups of words, how to read phrases and things like that all at once. We were taught to read on a word-by-word basis. The other problem with fixation is sometimes it causes a little irritation with your eyes. When you're reading, you ever read for an extended period of time and after a while you just have to rub your eyes or you just have to look away from the page for a moment? It's because your eyes are constantly stop, go, stop, go. It's this herky-jerky motion and it makes reading sometimes uncomfortable for an extended period of time. Okay, so fixation is habit number 1 we have to change. Habit number 2. Some of you laughed when I went back. How many people have gone back to reread material? Yes, everybody has done this. You ever read a whole page and afterwards you look up and you're like, I have no clue what I just read. This is, I'm sure, happened to you before, right? This second habit is called regression. Regression is a habit, average person does it 33% of the time. So let's quantify this. 60 minutes of reading, 20 minutes would be spent going back to reread material. So we're really just reading 40 minutes out of that 60 minutes going forward. Okay, so regression, if you're wondering, okay, is it only me? A lot of people do it. Average person's doing it 33% of the time. So we have to improve our concentration. We'll talk about that. Now, third habit. Everyone remembers when you were first learning how to read. Speaking of which, when was the last time you guys learned how to read? It's a while ago, right? And it was like kindergarten, first grade. This is a little odd. The last time you learned how to read was the first time you learned how to read, right? This is strange because in grade school, what do you learn year by year? You learn math every year. You learn science every year. You learn history every year. Reading, you learn it once, right? We learn reading once. And after that, it's kind of like, oh, well, we have to figure it out on our own. So we start by reading Dr. Seuss. And then eventually we get into high school, we're getting biology, physics. We get to college and now we're doing mechanical engineering or something really, really tough and technical. So we basically have college level material, grade school reading skills. This doesn't mean we're remedial. Most readers read the same way they were reading in grade school. So we have to make some changes here. This third habit, it's based on, remember when we were first learning to read, your teacher had you get up in front of class and you had to say the words out loud. How many people remember this dreadful experience? Yes? Okay, especially if, like for me, English wasn't my first language, so saying the words out loud in front of, if you messed up on a word, people would make fun of you, right? Now, after a while, your teacher did not want you to say the words out loud. What did he or she tell you to do?
Read in your head.
Yeah, say the words silently in your head. Don't say them out loud, say them in your head because it's annoying when you have 30 little kids in a room and everyone's talking, right? Can you imagine if you walked into a library or if you're trying to study in the library and there's someone next to you that's reading out loud? This would be incredibly annoying, right? So what happens? After a while, we say, okay, we'll say it in your head, and we continue to do this, and guess what? You're still saying the words silently in your head. How many people hear voices in their head when they read? Okay, some of you are like, wait, I don't know, this is a trick question. Am I hearing voices in my head? No. We say each and every single word in our head. If you haven't noticed it, now you've probably noticed it. And a lot of people think that it's absolutely necessary to say the words in their head in order to understand it, and that's just simply not true. When you see a stop sign, do you say stop in your head? No, you see a stop sign and it registers right away. What about when you're walking to campus and you see Drexel University? 2 words. You don't have to say Drexel University in your head. You see it and you know it right away. Instead, when we read, we see a word, we say it, and then we feel like we understand it. See it, say it, understand it. See it, say it, understand it, over and over again on each and every single word. And there's a lot of words on this page. A lot of words. So this habit, if you're keeping track over here, this habit is called auditory reassurance. It's number 3. This is the worst habit. It's also called subvocalization. Okay, these are just fancy words for you're saying the words silently in your head. Okay? Now, why is this a problem? Well, let's do a little experiment, actually. Everyone here has an article. Anybody not have an article that walked in a little later? Doesn't have one of these? Okay, if you have an article, we read for 1 minute up to a certain line. What we're going to be doing now is, just as an experiment, we're going to read out loud for only a minute just to see how far can we get. You're going to pick up wherever you left off, wherever your line was. You're going to continue from there. Now, you don't have to read really loud. You could just whisper. You're going to hear other people whispering. We're not going to do this in unison, okay? That would be very hard. Just read it to yourself. Well, not in your head, but whisper. You have to say every word, and this is just to see how far can we get when we're reading out loud versus when we read in our head. It's only going to be a minute, so continue where you left off, and you have to say all the words. I'm going to be saying all the words as well, and we'll see where we get. Okay? All right, go ahead and begin reading out loud. You might then think that companies could avoid future creep by just being Okay, stop, draw another line where you stopped. Okay, so now we have 2 lines. What I want you to do now is count up all the lines that you just read in that 1 minute out loud. Count up all those lines. And the same thing, multiply it by 10. Number of lines you read times 10. And on the back of your survey card again, actually you don't need to put this on your card. If you already have that beginning words per minute, you can just put it off to the side, either on your, you can put it on this page or you can put it on this card somewhere. Don't put it on the ending line though just yet. All right, so we read out loud just for 1 minute and we wanted to see where we were. You probably noticed you were around the same area. Maybe a little faster, maybe a little slower. Was there anybody 400 words a minute or faster? It's kind of hard to talk that fast, right? Usually there's no one even beyond 300 words a minute. How many people were somewhere in the range of at least one word per minute, right, to 250? Anywhere in that range? Raise your hand. Okay. It seems like everybody has fallen into that range. So what do we see out of this? First of all, we're probably either a little faster or a little slower, maybe by a few words, but around the same range. If you were a little faster, it could be because when you read out loud, you don't go back, right? If you were a little slower this time around, it could be because when you read out loud, maybe you read it like a story and you're not trying to rush through it, okay? But either way, we see if I started at 190 words a minute, I might be 210 or 170 or 160. I'm not really at 300 or 400. So what do we get out of this? Well, when you're reading, if you're saying each and every single word in your head, doesn't that mean you can only read as fast as you talk? Is there a limit to how fast you can talk? Yes, unless you're that person that does disclaimers at the end of a commercial, right? There's a limit really to how fast we're going. We kind of hit the ceiling. Remember I told you this is the average reading speed, and the interesting thing about it is after the age of 12, most people don't make an improvement after they kind of hit a peak. This is the main reason why. When you're saying all the words in your head, you can only read as fast as you talk, okay? We can go faster than that. We can read a little faster, as fast as we can think. We don't want to get stuck by just reading every single word in our head.